right, Nnamdi. So one of my favorite singers that was one of my inspirations um, growing up and coming into the game is under a little hot water right now. Mr. Neo, Schaefer
Okay.
Smith, is in trouble with his audience because he made a statement. I would say maybe possibly just the female section of his audience.
Mm.
So of course, R&B has changed a lot, and what is dominating the airwaves now in the charts is hip hop.
Mm.
And I think in an effort to compete with, hip hop, a lot of male R&B artists have been adopting a lot of the terminology and slang and habits of hip hop to compete in those spaces. And aside from that, we have Neo, who is more of a babyface type writer. He's more of a love song writer.
Mm.
Um, and he had a really big splash in the early 2000s, or I should say mid 2000s.
Mm.
Um, so I guess in a couple of interviews, he's kind of been speaking out. And so one interview, he had made this statement. So just tell me what you think. So he says to the female audience, if a man sings the word bitch to you and you smile at him, then he's probably going to do it again. Then he says, the more misogynistic the lyrics, the more y'all accept it, the more it's going to happen. He also says, you my bitch has replaced I love you. So
Is replaced what?
it's replaced the sentiment of I love you. That's
Okay.
my bitch. Or you my bitch. Oh, I get a chance to cuss on the podcast today. Uh, no, so yeah, so he's basically speaking out on the misogyny in the music today. I didn't actually hear the clip. I'm
Mm.
reading it from print, but I'm assuming that someone was asking him about um, the misogyny in music today, and so that was his response. So the audience was they were a little mixed, but a lot of people were kind of outraged at his comments. They felt different ways about it. So what do you think about what he
Yeah.
says
Has
to
he?
you?
Has he? I don't know if I've ever heard Neo in any of his songs use those terminologies. Is that something he's using it in
Bitch.
yeah, in any of his
Um,
songs, newer songs?
he's got some questionable lyrics in some of the songs. I don't know that I remember bitch.
Mm.
Possibly. I mean, he did do a song with Plies. I'm trying to remember if that had the word bitch in it. He does have a couple of new songs that are a little racy. And then he had that stripper song. And I think that so what do you think though? Do you feel like the audience has, I guess what he's saying is that uh, the more you accept it, the more it will happen. So he's saying that the audience has a responsibility um, to show creators what they want. So if you're responding positively to negativity, then you're going to continuously get negativity. So do you agree with that statement, or do you feel like
Well,
it's a little more?
I guess it depends because his audience doesn't necessarily mean that they listen to um, the hip hop artists who are using that terminology. It might be a lot popular among a younger generation who gravitate to hip hop artists who are using that terminology. And even though it might seem that those are the songs that are trending and are getting all the plays and the streams, doesn't necessarily mean that when he sings it, his particular audience is the same people listening to Future or Little Bow Wow, Little Baby or the Baby or not. So I think he's sort of misguided like that. Can you imagine if Maze and Frankie Belly think, well, you know what, the trendy songs are using that terminology, so we need to start singing it because their audience, that's not the same audience that listen to that. So when I think about Neo, I think of a crooner who sings very elegant, very romantic type of songs and trendy. But I don't, you know, it's like Keep Sweat. I wouldn't necessarily see Keep Sweat singing that. He might have, I can't remember, but I can't sit down and crease sweat. And so I don't think he will start chasing popularity. He has his niche, he has his audience. The same way I would think Maxwell, and the same way I think Joe, they have their audience.
Well, I don't think he's focusing on his audience. I think he's focusing on the general audience, the people that are that are listening to music today. Because the question was asked about misogynistic lyrics, and he wouldn't fall under that because he doesn't necessarily make that
Yeah.
music. But
Mm.
what the question is, does the audience, the listening audience, if we don't want a certain type of uh, reflection, or we don't want a certain influence, if we don't want that, how do we have a responsibility to turn it off or reject it in an effort to stop it? Or because that's what he's doing, he's trying to put the he's trying, and in this case it's because he's saying ladies, he's talking specifically about the word bitch.
Yeah.
um do they have a responsibility? It would be good if we had a female to ask. Do they have a responsibility to show creators what they're not accepting? Because what he's saying is that basically the female audience is showing that they accept that, and they accept that type of language and that type of you know, the way they accept the misogynistic lyrics, because they're not, they're smiling, literally like smiling and dancing to the music, showing that, hey, I don't care what he's saying, I just like the music. So
Yeah,
I don't
but
know.
with that, you have people like Cardi B,
Hmm.
and others who might use the terminology when they're rapping, or even male hip hop artists. But who's listening to that? So I don't listen to Future, the Baby,
Right.
or all these people. So when they're using it, or any females that I know are listening to that, it's like Scissor or Jasmine Sullivan, not Jasmine Sullivan, Summer Walker. I was listening to some of their lyrics and how sort of raunchy they are as R&B artists. Now I it's a little too much for me. And so I'm not listening to that. But there's a generation who are listening to that, and that's them, and they can accept, and they
Right.
don't mind it, but that's okay. But we're very different generations who are listening to this stuff.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily generational. I mean, through beginning of music, people were using that language and putting it in songs. I mean, 80s music, people were calling women bitches and stuff. And 70s music, they were calling people bitches and using the F word. And it's all out there. It's just, this has become so mainstream and the norm. I think, so for me, I just think Neo is just, he's speaking from the frustration of a writer that is trying to get a pulse on the audience. He's trying to understand uh, how to navigate this time right now. So he's kind of frustrated because the music he does is no longer spotlighted and on the charts and
Mm,
successful. And what's now popular is this new brand of R&B or slash hip hop that is seemingly misogynistic and using vulgar,
mm,
lyrics, and he has to compete. So either he's gonna to have success again, he has the frustrating challenge of, do I conform and just do music that fits this style, or do I stay true to what I do
mm.
and get diminishing record sales and no one paying attention to me and everyone calling me washed up
Yeah,
and has been. So, he
yeah,
has that dilemma. This is nothing. This is kind of what most are,
mm,
stars have to go, R&B stars have to go through, or stars in general have to go through. So it's just a hot new sound, or it's not really hot new now, but so I think essentially what he's saying, and I think it's other undertones under there too, that, a lot of guys might be saying that, okay, you say you don't want to be called a bitch and you don't want to be disrespected. So why are you dancing to this music that's calling you a bitch and disrespecting? Why are you
yeah,
smiling and accepting it? So it's really a deeper issue there. I don't know if he's going that deep with it. He
yeah,
may, because I know there's a lot of guys that are possibly posing that, but then women will counter with that. They say, well, you shouldn't be blaming the victim, or you should not be saying that You should not put the responsibility on the women to change your behavior.
No,
So
and yeah, and you
I
have to
guess
be
we
careful
won't get
because
any.
it's like saying to a young girl who's probably wearing boots and a and short dress, and they get harassed and said, well,
That's what they're
if you
equating
didn't
it
dress
to.
that way, we you would have been safe. And it's like, doesn't matter how I dress, doesn't necessarily give the right. So you always got to be careful to say, well, because you said it, then and you guys are enjoying it, so that means you
Hmm.
guys are enjoying it because you've got it's a demographic, and you've got to
Yeah.
you know
The art of media training is dead because back in the day, nobody would allow him to even say that. But everybody's saying anything for attention now, and sometimes it backfires on you. Some battles are not worth fighting. Some things are not worth bringing up. There's going to always be double standards and contradictions.
mm,
Sometimes it's best to just leave alone because you, at the end of the day, are a product trying to sell your product and you want to attract as many people as possible. Sometimes it's good to just keep your opinions to yourself and sell
yeah,
your product. So that's my advice to anybody thinking about that. Sometimes it's okay to give a little bit of your opinion, but don't go too far out there where you're going to actually repel your own audience. And that's
yeah,
what essentially, because realistically, Neo's audience is mostly female.
mm,
I mean, there are males that like his music too, but he caters to a female audience.
mm,
So it's almost like, why throw yourself out there like that? And he's done this several times in the past with, his own personal things, his relationships and things, and certain things that's kind of, turned his audience off. So, the art
mm.
of, like I said, the art of media training is gone. But guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment section. What are your thoughts about the what people perceive to be misogynistic lyrics today? Do you think the audience has a responsibility to show, or to let creators know what they want and what they don't? Do you think they should be held accountable for it? Do you think that you should be able to like whatever you like and it doesn't matter? Let us know your comments in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah.
Thanks again for watching, guys.
And before we go, don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button.
Yeah, and also remember to turn on the notification so you can know when we have another show. But thanks again.
That too.